Step number one, we took our opponent down to the ground and we removed the single greatest danger, which is the ability of our opponent to engage in a catastrophic knockout through generating huge amounts of kinetic energy in a standing position with punch, kicks, elbows, knees, etc. So we took them down to the floor. Step number two, we went past their legs, so-called passing of the guard, where we get past their legs and into a dominant upper body pin. Once we get a dominant upper body pin, we use movement around our opponent's body to go from one pin to another. The more that pin offers control that leads into striking ability on the floor, the more reward the pin gets in the sport system of Jiu-Jitsu. And this culminates in the fourth step, the idea of submission, using a joint lock or even better, a stranglehold to finish the fight in a very decisive fashion. So this would be the top system of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, what if we took the other angle and we were the ones who got taken down to the ground? Perhaps the opponent tackled us and put us on the floor. Well, then the situation gets a little bit more ambiguous, but still pretty simple. Let's have a look at it now. Let's look at a situation where Bernardo Faria takes down Gordon Ryan and puts him straight down to the floor. Let's face the camera, guys, so we get an angle. Okay, right off the takedown, there's an opportunity for us to attack, provided we have our legs between ourselves and our opponent. I'm going to say this again because this is a key theme behind the sport of Jiu-Jitsu. If we're going to be in back position, we always want our legs as an intermediary or a barrier between ourselves and our opponent. I always want my legs between my upper body and my opponent's upper body. This is a key theme. Now, what if that didn't happen? What if Bernardo Faria not just took Gordon Ryan down, but actually cleared his legs and ended up across his side? Well, our first responsibility in the bottom position is always to recover our legs and get our legs back between ourselves and our opponent. So you will see, having been taken down as step number one, Gordon Ryan's step number two is now to recover his legs and get out of that pin. Once his legs come around his opponent, now he has an opportunity to begin to attack. And this can be done in numerous different ways. As we saw earlier, Gordon Ryan could, for example, employ an arm lock. He could employ a strangle with his legs, the so-called triangle. He could employ some kind of sweep where he knocked his opponent over and went from bottom position to top position. We'll come back to investigate that later. But you can see what's happening. Our opponent took us down and cleared our legs. So our first responsibility is always to bring our legs back between ourselves and our opponent. And from there, if we're going to fight off our back, we're going to fight with the benefit of our legs. What is so special about the legs? What makes the legs such a big part of the sport of Jiu-Jitsu? Well, there's an obvious asymmetry between the strength of our legs and the strength of our upper body. When Gordon Ryan uses any form of guard against Bernardo Faria, you'll notice what's going on here is he's using his legs to wrestle his opponent's upper body. And if he can do this, locking onto his opponent and turning him over, or coming back to the same position, guys, locking up a submission hold, say a triangle, for example, he's using his legs against his opponent's upper body to create a situation where an asymmetry between his leg strength versus his opponent's upper body strength means that there's a very high likelihood of victory on his part. Remember, for a smaller person to defeat a bigger person, it's almost always going to take your legs against their arms if you're going to fight from bottom position. And that means recovering some form of guard where we can fight with our legs against our opponent's upper body. Now let's go further into this. Let's start standing again. Let's say Bernardo Faria takes Gordon Ryan down and lands straight in Gordon Ryan's guard, and Gordon snaps on an arm lock even as they land. Say, for example, Udigatami. Can you see what happened there? This is probably the shortest rendition of Jiu-Jitsu as a system. We got taken down, that's step number one, and right from our back, step number two, Gordon Ryan applies a nasty Udigatami arm lock, where he extends his opponent's arm straight and then hyperextends it to break the arm. That took only 2 steps in order to achieve victory. Step number one, our opponent took us down, and because he landed inside our legs, we went directly to a submission. And within 2 steps, we achieved victory. Now, contrast that with a situation where Bernardo Faria takes Gordon Ryan down. Let's come to center, guys. and clears Gordon Ryan's legs. Now, step number 1, our opponent took us down to the floor. Step number 2, we need to recover our guard. Step number 3, we sweep our opponent over and achieve top position, and we end up inside our opponent's guard. Now, as we saw before, if we're on top position, we have to clear our opponent's legs. So step number 4, we clear our opponent's legs. Step number 5, we work through a hierarchy of pins, each one enabling strong punching pressure, which makes our opponent turn, and sets up step number 6, a submission hold, a strangle from the back. Finish it. Roll through, roll through. Good. And do you see how that was the longest possible method of employing the skills of Jiu-Jitsu? We started with a bad start to the fight. Our opponent took us down and cleared our legs. We used an escape to put him back in guard. We used our guard as a means of reversal to get top position. And then we went through the various steps of passing our opponent's guard, passing the legs in other words, working our way through a hierarchy of pins, and then finishing our opponent. That's the longest rendition that you can have of the step-by-step system of Jiu-Jitsu. 6 steps. So Jiu-Jitsu can be as short as 2 steps. Our opponent takes us down, we finish quickly with a submission hold. Or it can be as long as 6 steps. Probably the most well-known rendition of Jiu-Jitsu is one where we take our opponent down, and it's a 4-step system. But the application of Jiu-Jitsu is always somewhere, depending upon the scenario, between 2 steps and 6 steps, with the most well-known application being the 4-step top system. Once you understand Jiu-Jitsu in this simple step-by-step system, it starts to give a very clear sense of what we ought to be doing in any phase of combat with another unarmed single human being. Jiu-Jitsu always gives a very clear sense of direction to anyone who follows its teachings. Anytime you're in a fight, you know exactly what you ought to be doing. If you're in a standing position, take your opponent down. If you can take him down, get past his legs. If you can get past his legs, work your way through a hierarchy of pins which offer greater and greater potential to strike your opponent until an opportunity presents itself to employ a submission hold. Usually a strangle is favored. If we end up in bottom position, we must first bring our legs back between ourselves and our opponent. Then we either submit them from where we are or sweep them over and take top position, and then repeat the sequence of passing the legs, going through a hierarchy of pins, and finishing them with a submission hold. This very simple but incredibly clear step-by-step system gives you the potential to understand exactly what you ought to be doing at any moment in the wild chaos of a street fight. It's a great security to know and have this very clear sense of direction as to what you ought to be doing. Fighting by its very nature is a scary and chaotic business, and to have a clear, coherent, and very simple system, knowing exactly what you ought to be doing at any moment in one of those wild and chaotic fights, is a luxury that will help you immensely if you find yourself in a street fight situation. What I want to have these 2 outstanding athletes do now is to show you some of the elements in more detail that we touched in that discussion. We're going to have Gordon Ryan show some work from a closed guard situation. Mr. Ryan's about to release a video specifically on closed guard. It forms a major part of the system of Jiu-Jitsu, and he has within the overall system of Jiu-Jitsu his own system within that one specific niche, closed guard. Let's have a look at some work from closed guard. Gordon Ryan.
Okay, so essentially what we're trying to do is to keep our partner's posture broken. The way we do this is by thinking about our partner's spine as a lever, the hips being the short end of the lever, and the top of the head being the long end of the lever. Okay, so what I have to do to control my partner's posture is either 1, use my hands to control his head, or 2, find ways to incrementally work my legs up to a higher and higher point on this lever. So now when he goes to posture up or he goes to hit me, it's just so difficult. I can always pull my knees in towards my chest and look to go into all of my attacks with submissions or with sweeps. Okay. In addition, I'm looking to turn this relatively neutral position into a position where I have small advantages by making micro adjustments where now I can start to move my legs into positions where I can control his posture, create angular advantages, and now look to go into all of my attacks, whether with submissions or with all kinds of different sweeping positions. Okay, so the first thing I'm looking for is to put myself, especially when there's punches being thrown, into a position where I can control his posture, whether with one, controlling the head with our arms, or two, finding ways to make micro adjustments to move his body position to where I can walk my legs and feet up to the long end of the lever of his spine, where now when he has to posture up and punch me, it's difficult. If I can take elbows across the body and control posture, now I have two things. I have the ability to control his posture, and I have angular advantage. So now when he goes to hit me from here, he can't posture up, he can't even get his hands in the right position, and now I can start to go into all of my attacks, where I can either go into submissions, I can take him over for sweeps, I can start to come in and go for back attacks. Okay, so the first thing we're looking for is ways to control his posture, whether through using my upper body or exploiting the asymmetry between the strength of my legs and the strength of his upper body. If I can do this, it will always lead me to these small micro advantage positions where now I can control his posture and look to easily go into all of my either submissions, sweeping positions, or back take positions.